Okay, so this is an overview of our 10-hour. This is an overview of our 10-hour course, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school, and we just posted the information there, how you can register for the full course. Okay, we cannot start our history. We cannot start our history in slavery. Our history in this country that we call the United States of America does not start in slavery. We were here for tens of thousands of years before that. And unfortunately, most of our people don't know this. And I oftentimes have to correct PhDs on this information as well. Or oftentimes have to correct PhDs on this information also. Okay. And a lot of times we'll hear people say, oh, well, they've been doing that since they brought us here. I said, no, we were here before Europeans came into existence. We were here in the land we call the United States of America before Europeans came into existence. Not only that, there was a huge discovery that was made, revealed yesterday. We're going to talk about that in tonight's class, because we're going to talk about 3 archaeological discoveries that were made this month. Okay, 2 in Egypt and 1 in this country. So you have 3 archaeological discoveries that were made this month that's totally blowing people's minds also. All right. Okay, so this presentation, we do a slide presentation, we do a PowerPoint presentation, and we have video incorporated into it as well. All right. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the screen share. And then I've improved it also so that you can let me set this up just so I can duplicate the screen so you can see what I'm seeing. All right. And I've improved it as well so you can see it larger. So sometimes you're going to see the screen instead of me. Okay. And what I'm going to do is monitor comments on Facebook, on our Facebook fan page. I mean, I'll monitor your comments. So you can post your comments here also, and I'm going to monitor comments on my phone. Okay. So you also be able to see this. Okay. How does this look to everybody? Can you read it? Can you make it out? I know some people are looking on their smartphones. I know some people are looking on their smartphones, tablets, things like this. But what I did was I enlarged the screen. Okay. So we got Shirley Carter, Renee Lawis, Ndiaye, Swollen Johnson, just a few of the people. Okay. Can you all see this? Okay. Roger said good, looking good. All right, good. Okay. So this is an overview of a 10-hour online course that I teach called Ancient Kemet, the Moors and the Maafa. Ancient Kemet, the Moors and the Maafa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So for those that are not familiar with me, I'm Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. I own the fan page that we're broadcasting on. We have now 170,000 followers. I post articles throughout the day. We also have Dr. Boyce Watkins that posts articles on our fan page. He's a friend of mine, so we work together. I'm the host of the African History Network show on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. Also the host of the Michael Imhotep show. And at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. If you want to bring me in to do a presentation for your group or organization, you can email me at info@africanhistorynetwork.com, info@africanhistorynetwork.com. I speak at churches, Kwanzaa events, African American History Month celebration, schools, etc. Okay. And then those in the class, they can email me also to ask me questions about the class also. All right. Now this online course came out of a presentation that I did in January 2014 called Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This presentation was about 7 years of research, and it's on DVD. It's 4.5 hours. If you want to order that from our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. When I'm on the radio, I broadcast on Facebook Live. So you may have seen the Facebook Live broadcast this morning. I was in the studio at 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. I'm on Thursdays, 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the morning show, Wake Up with Steve Hood. And I'm on Sunday nights on my show, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the African History Network show. You can go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, for more information of how to listen and to listen to podcasts of the shows. So I've been doing radio for 7 years. These are just a few of the scholars I've interviewed the past 7 years. Some of them are some of my teachers, like Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor Kaba Kamene, also known as Booker T. Coleman, Dr. David Imhotep, Professor James Small. Those four are some of my teachers. Dr. Phil Valentine I've interviewed. Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, I interviewed her 3 times. Tony Browder, Runoko Rashidi. Dr. Ray Hagins is one of my teachers also. Shahrazad Ali. I've interviewed Darren DeWitt Henson in the TV show on Showtime, Soul Food, and he's a choreographer, actor, director. Deshaun Farad, staff writer for Your Black World. Jessica Holter, who founded the Punani Poets. The Punani Poets, you look them up, the Punani Poets. Dr. Umar Johnson, a lot of other people I've interviewed also. If you go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, we have over 700 podcasted episodes of our shows. You can listen to interviews I've done with all these scholars and much more. Okay. All right. Now, Dr. John Henry Clark was one of our great Grandmaster Scholar warriors. And Dr. Clark taught us that all history is a current event. Everything that's ever happened continues to happen in some shape, form, or fashion. All history is a current event. Everything that's ever happened continues to happen in some shape, form, or fashion. Okay. This is what Dr. John Henry Clark taught us. And if you watch the documentary, A Great and Mighty Walk is about Dr. John Henry Clark, and they deal with thousands of years of history there. And then also watch the documentary, because he's in that documentary, he narrates it. And also he's in the documentary, and the narrator is Wesley Snipes. Okay. Actor Wesley Snipes. Also watch the documentary Make It Plain, which is about Malcolm X, because Dr. Clark was good friends with Malcolm X, and he was also one of Malcolm X's history teachers as well. He supplied Malcolm a lot of information on history, but also Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, another great Grandmaster Scholar warrior of ours who was an Egyptologist. He was also good friends with Malcolm, supplied Malcolm with a lot of historical information as well. Okay, so check out the documentary Make It Plain, and it's on YouTube, Make It Plain. Okay, all right, let's continue here. Okay, now, a lot of people ask how you pronounce your last name. Last name is Imhotep, Imhotep, Imhotep. Imhotep was one of the greatest people who ever lived in human history. Okay, unfortunately, many of our people don't know about Imhotep. All right, now, Imhotep means he who comes in peace in the ancient Medu Neter language. He who comes in peace in the ancient Medu Neter language. Okay, and the Medu Neter was the ancient language spoken by the ancient Egyptians or ancient Kemetic people. Okay, because Egypt is not a word that we use. Egypt is an Arabic word of Greek derivation coming originally from the Kemetic word Hekupata, which means the land of the temple of Ptah. Okay, Hekupata. And the Greeks called it Egyptos. Okay, Egyptos, Aegyptos, I think it's spelled Egyptos. And then the Romans called it Egyptus. TUS, Egyptus. And if you look at Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization by Tony Browder, Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization by Tony Browder, page 268 in the glossary, Aegyptos. Aegyptos. That's what the Greeks called it, Egyptos. The Romans in Latin called it Egyptus, Aegyptos. And the Arabs, who are the invaders there, they call it Egypt. The Arabs called it Egypt. Okay. All right. So when we refer to the time when Africans ruled, usually we refer to it as ancient Egypt, if we're going to use the term Egypt. But Imhotep was a high priest. He was a physician. He was an architect, mathematician, designer of the Step Pyramid at Saqqara for Nasubiti-Zoser, or Pharaoh Zoser. Pharaoh is not a term that we use. That's an Asian term that comes about around the 19th dynasty. That's an Asian term used to refer to the Nasubitis, or the kings of ancient Kemet. Okay, this was around third dynasty, the third dynasty, that Imhotep was an architect for the Step Pyramid, and he was known as the world's first multi-genius. Now, depending upon which timeline of history you use, depending upon which timeline of history you use, you're going to see that he lives anywhere from 2700 BC to 3000 BC. Because we know at least 130,000 years of our history has been stolen. I go with the oldest dates I can find. And in tonight's class, because class meets at 7 p.m. on Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, April 21st through May 11th. Okay. And as soon as you register for the online course, you'll be able to watch the first 4 hours that are recorded. We also have other free content you can watch. And all the sessions are recorded live. So if you miss any other sessions, you can go back and watch them over and over again. Okay. So those watching on Facebook, shout out to everybody watching on Facebook. Shout out to those watching in Crowdcast. And if you need me to post a link again so you can register for the full course, the full 10-hour course, let me know. The course is only the full course is only $40. Full course is only $40. All of it's recorded. You can go back and watch it as many times as you want to. And it's taught by myself, Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. So if you need me to post a link again so you can register for the course, just you can let me know on Facebook. You need me to post the link and you'll be able to join us for class tonight. Okay, it's an online class and you can also join us from your smartphone as well. All right. Okay, so this is Imhotep. All right. And this is not Imhotep. Okay. Now, in the 2001 blockbuster movie, The Mummy Returns, the villain's name was Imhotep. The villain's name was Imhotep. So consequently, many of our children see this movie and think that one of the greatest people in human history was not of African descent and think he was a villain. And the movie, The Mummy Returns, was a sequel to the movie, The Mummy. Okay. And in this movie, they have this actor named Arnold Vosloo. He's looking like a Eurasian Arab person in the film. He portrays a high priest named Imhotep in ancient Egypt, and he's a villain. So they're just totally hijacking our history, totally hijacking our culture. Okay. Totally hijacking our history, totally hijacking our culture. All right. So this is why we have to be careful of the images that we allow our children to see, because the number one way that European white supremacist images are fed to our youth is through the television, OK, you call it TV. I call it the television because it's a vision that tells lies. All right. Jerry Watkins in Ohio. How you doing in Ohio? You're right next to us in Michigan. I'm in Detroit. Okay, Renee said, please post a link. Okay, Renee, we just posted a link. It says register for the full. It's actually a 10-hour course instead of an 8-hour course. But we just posted a link again so you can register. We just posted a link again so you can register for the course. Okay, so you can check that out right there. Posted a link and get more information. Okay, so. So we have to be cognizant of what we allow our children to watch. You know, what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you have been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Okay. So this is what, and we have to understand the propaganda of the media. I've been studying media for 25 years. Media, African history, African American history, culture, spiritual systems, entrepreneurship, economic empowerment. I've been studying that for 25 years. So I'm very familiar with this. Okay. And my degree is in business administration with a major in marketing. Okay. So I'm very, very familiar with this, with the media and the power of the media. All right. Now, to take this a step further, Nielsen, there was a study done, well, each year the state of the African American consumer comes out. So if you're not familiar with this study, check it out. And it's compiled by Nielsen.com, AC Nielsen, who do all type of surveys, and they also calculate the ratings for television that TV networks, cable networks use to set their advertising rates. Okay, AC Nielsen. And they also do it in radio, because I used to sell radio ads for one of the largest radio stations in Detroit. I used to sell radio ads. Okay, so You have AC Nielsen ratings for radio also. But in the September 2011 study called The State of the African American Consumer, they talked about from their research that African American adults 18 to 49 watch 7.2 hours of the television a day. 7.2 hours of the television a day. No, Imhotep is not Joseph. No, Imhotep is not Joseph. You have to make a clear distinction between whether you're dealing with world history or religious literature. Those are two entirely different things. Okay. This is one of the things that Dr. John Henrik Clarke always taught us. And Professor Kaba Kamene deals with this as well. There's a world history is what happened. Religious literature is the result of what happened. No, Imhotep was not Joseph. Hell no. Okay. So you no. All right. Let's go back to the class. All right. So African American adults 18 to 49 watch 7.2 hours of the television a day. African American children watch almost 6 hours of TV a day. So 7.2 hours a day, that's 50 hours a week. That's a full-time job plus 10 hours of overtime you don't get paid to do. And 6 hours is actually 5 hours, 54 minutes a day. It's 42 hours a week. And we've been bombarded with these negative stereotypical images for the most part. Okay. So this is why we have to be cognizant of the images that we take in and also reduce our television consumption as well of a lot of the nonsense, reduce our television consumption of a lot of the nonsense. All right. Now, this was a study that came out. Now, this goes right into dealing with the images that we see, which ties into our self-esteem, which ties into the proliferation of slave movies that we see, ties into to the proliferation. You have a slave television show now called Underground. I know they mean well, but they don't understand our history, the totality of our history, and the damage that this psychologically does when we keep trying to when we keep perpetuating the 1619 myth, the myth that our history in this country started August 20th, 1619, and slavery conquered by Europeans in shackles and chains. And since then, we've just been fighting to be recognized as human beings. No, this was our land stolen from us. We're going to deal with this. And in tonight's class, tonight's class at 7 p.m. So if you haven't registered for the course, go ahead and register for it now. We're going to deal with 3 major discoveries that were revealed this month dealing with archaeology. One came out yesterday and all the major news outlets had a story about it, dealing with a presence of humans found in the U.S. going back 130,000 years ago. This information just came out yesterday. Now, this was an important study that came out in 2012. BlackAmericaWeb.com. Okay, and Carrie and Charles on Facebook, shout out to you all. Thanks for watching. Everybody on Facebook, share this broadcast on your own Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. Okay, so this was a study, came out in 2012. This deals with the impact of the images that our children see in the media, how it impacts their self-esteem. The name of this article was called TV Kills Black Boys' Self-Esteem. TV Kills Black Boys' Self-Esteem. And a synopsis of the article and the study says a new, precise, and exhaustive year-long study finds that watching television regularly distorts and ultimately destroys, the self-esteem of young Black males who often find themselves comparing one another to the characters they view on air, on the television, leaving them feeling trapped as if there are, quote, very few positive life paths they can aspire to, end quote, leaving them feeling trapped as if there are very few positive life paths they can aspire to. So African American males are bombarded with these negative images of drug dealers and pimps and murderers and gangbangers and all this stuff. Okay. And you see thousands of these images. It negatively impacts your subconscious, which overrules your conscious and impacts your self-esteem. Your thoughts create feelings. Your feelings create actions and behaviors. Your actions and behaviors create results. Your thoughts create feelings. Your feelings create actions and behaviors. Your actions and behaviors create results. Okay. So this is why we have to understand why we have to surround our children with positive images, surround our children with books that have characters in it that look like them. You can go to theblackHomeschool.com, theblackHomeschool.com, because at theblackHomeschool.com, they have a lot of articles that deal with books, and they have list of books for African American children, positive books, positive images for them, things like this. I'm gonna post the link here. Okay, post a link here on the thread on Facebook. theblackHomeschool.com. You see, we post articles from them on a daily basis. Okay, I know the owner of the website. Her name is Noma Langa. Very beautiful sister, intelligent sister, Noma Langa. Check out theblackHomeschool.com. The articles there will totally blow you away, totally help change your life. Okay, totally help change your life. All right, now let's continue here. Okay, all right, and for those just tuning in, this is we're doing an overview of a 10-hour online course that I teach called Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. The Maafa means the great disaster. It's the Kiswahili word that refers to our Holocaust, the Maafa, because there's you have various African scholars like African Center scholars like Dr. Marimba Ani, things like this, who says the Jews used the term the Holocaust to refer to what happened to them. And 6 million plus Jews killed by Hitler, things like this, right? What happened to us was multiple times worse than what happened to the Jews. Not trying to diminish what happened to them. What happened to us was multiple times worse. So we need to come up with our own term to describe what happened to us as opposed to using their term. So the Maafa is a Kiswahili term that means the great disaster, that deals with what was inflicted upon African people, which was different than what happened to other people. Okay. So this is we're doing an overview. This is about an hour and a half overview of an online course that I teach that meets on Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is meeting tonight. And it's called Ancient Kemet, which is one of the original names for Egypt, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay. The full course is only $40. The whole course is recorded. We do it live in class, but it's recorded. So if you miss any of it, you can go back and watch it over and over again. And you can tune in through the internet. When you register, you can watch. You can watch from your smartphone also. Okay. So you can register for that as well. And then as soon as you register, we have first 4 hours of the class recorded. We also have other free content for you to watch also. Now, this is a picture of the step pyramid that Imhotep was a designer of, an architect of, for Nasubiti Zoser in the third dynasty. Okay, this is now this is called a mastaba, a flat bench pyramid. Mastaba means flat bench pyramid. This was one of the early pyramids. Okay, the ones that come later are more sloped, and they're more intricate in the design. Pyramid building technology evolves over thousands of years, hundreds of years, thousands of years, and so this is different than the pyramids you see at Giza, the pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, the Great Pyramids. You're also going to find that there are more pyramids in this, what today is called the Sudan, than there are in Egypt. They're about 235 in the Sudan. They're about 125, 130, something like that in Egypt. But the Sudan, or what was called Nubia, also called Ta-Nehesi, is the mother to ancient Egypt. And the grandmother to ancient Kemet, or Egypt, ancient Egypt, is Ethiopia, also called Abyssinia. All right. All right, how's everybody doing on Facebook? Okay. All right, let's continue here. All right, now, because we do a number of different dates in the course, I just give people a good foundation to understand dating systems, BC and AD. I know people are coming from different levels of understanding of history. So what we do in the first session is really build a firm foundation, so you could better understand what's coming. Okay. And we deal with African people being in this land going back at least 51,700 years ago. But there's new evidence that pushes that date back, going back at least 130,000 years ago. We deal with the Africans known as the Moors, their 800-year occupation of Europe. We deal with Christopher Columbus, a lot of things. And we deal with it chronologically. We deal with history chronologically to understand the transatlantic slave trade, as opposed to episodically. It wasn't an episode in history. It wasn't something that just fell out of the sky. Okay. So this is what we deal with also. And we have to understand how a sequence of historical events lead up to a large event taking place. So when we look at dating systems, BC and AD, right? BC dates count down 3000 BC to 2700 BC. AD dates count up. Okay. 10 AD to 70 AD. AD does not mean Anno Domini. I mean, AD does not mean in the year after death. It means Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. The dating systems of BC and AD were formulated and popularized by an English monk named Bede, B-E-D-E, also known as the Venerable Bede. And he was later canonized as a saint. B-E-D-E, Bede. You could research him. Okay. All right. Now, anytime I do a presentation, I know I'm going to say some things that people may have never heard before. I may say some things that people don't like. Okay, in Hamida, yeah, in the course we deal with Ghana, Songhai, Mali. We deal with ancient Kemet, Ethiopia, Sudan, Ta-Nehisi, Nubia, things like that. We deal with that in the course also. We deal with a chronology of history. Okay, I know I'm going to say some things that people never heard before. Probably say some things people don't like. Probably say some things people disagree with. I deal with facts and evidence as much as possible. I don't deal with opinions. I'm not Dear Abby. I don't deal with opinions. Very rarely. If it's an opinion, I usually tell you it's an opinion. I deal with facts and evidence. But I usually have people put their fingers together to form a circle. And I learned this from one of my teachers, Dr. Ray Hagins. And I modified this and made it my own. I usually say something like this. The space inside this circle represents my realm of knowledge. Everything that I think I know about whatever I think I know is represented within the circumference of this circle. I must keep in mind that there are still things to know that exist outside the circumference of my own awareness. Now, the reason why I say this is because oftentimes when people hear something that contradict what they've been taught, what they believe, or what they think they know, they automatically reject it without doing any research to determine the validity of the new information that they're learning. And at the same time, they usually don't use that same level of scrutiny to analyze, critique, or reevaluate what it is they believe or what they think they know. Okay. So just because you know everything that you know about what you know does not mean you know everything there is to know about what you know. Okay. There's still things that exist outside the circumference of your own awareness. All right. So hopefully everybody understands this. Okay. And shout out to now. And how's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. I know we have a lot of people watching us on Facebook, our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Share this information on your own Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in, because the information we cover is going to blow them away. And the full class meets tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is about an hour and a half overview of our 10-hour, 5-day online class that meets on Thursdays. Okay. All right. Now, let's continue here. So I tell people when I do the presentations, you don't have to believe a word that I say. Go do your own research. 3 main reasons why I do these presentations, because there's a lot of work to do these. Number one, to make you think. If I can make you think, you start asking questions. If you start asking questions, you start seeking out answers. Number two, to provide you with the information, the history, the resources, the books, the websites, the articles, the video clips, etc., for you to go do your own research. And number three, the information we take in has to bring about behavior modification. Behavior modification. Your thoughts create feelings. Your feelings create actions and behaviors. Your actions and behaviors create results. So the information we take in has to change the way we think, feel, act, and behave, which ultimately changes our results. So our motto is right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. Right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. All right. Now, some of the things we deal with in the course when it comes to understanding the transatlantic slave trade, we deal with what was the transatlantic slave trade exactly? What were some of the events that led up to the transatlantic slave trade starting? Because we deal with understanding this chronologically and understanding, you know, Professor Kamenei talks about how to understand the existence of something, you must first understand the pre-existence of existence. To understand the existence of something, you must first understand the pre-existence of existence. OK, so we deal with what was the transatlantic slave trade? What were some of the events that led up to the transatlantic slave trade starting? What role did Christopher Columbus play as well? Because Columbus and his 4 voyages, and we have to, and one of the things I do is show you where Columbus went on his 4 voyages, because he never came to the land that we call the United States of America. I repeat, Columbus never came to the land that we call the United States of America, which is why we have to stop lying to our children, teaching them that Columbus discovered America, okay, which is not true. It's not true for a number of reasons. Number one, of course, there were already people in the areas where he went. OK, number one, but that ain't the real. That's not the number one reason why Columbus never did not discover America. The number one reason is because he never came to the land we call the United States of America. The closest he came to this land was Cuba, which is 90 miles away. OK, so this is why we have to stop lying to our children, telling them that Columbus discovered America. It's just not true. All right. And we go and deal with this in the course. All right. But Columbus and his 4 voyages helped lay the foundation for slavery, racism, capitalism, the exploitation of indigenous people, and opens up the so-called New World to other European nations coming in and exploiting the indigenous people, stealing their resources, stealing their land, etc. OK, so we deal with what role did Columbus play? And then we also deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, who are taking teachings coming from ancient Kemet, from the Nile Valley region of Africa, and dealing with the ancient Egyptian mystery system, ancient Kemetic mystery system, taking these teachings into Europe, civilizing Europe, bringing Europe out of the Dark Ages. And then these teachings, Europeans are going to take some elements of these teachings around the world, but they bring some of those teachings here with the British colonies, Jamestown, Virginia, 1607. So we deal with understanding that chronology of history, because to understand how we got into the predicament we are today, this is very important. OK, to understand how we got into the predicament we're in today, we have to understand August 3rd, 1492. When Columbus set sail on his first voyage on the Nina de Pinta and Santa Maria. To understand August 3rd, 1492, we have to understand January 2nd, 1492, where the Moors lose control of the last stronghold in Europe, which was Grenada. OK, and to understand that, we have to understand the previous 800 years of history. OK, so this is extremely important. Now, we also deal with when did Africans first come to the U.S. Enslaved African people. OK, because we were also brought here in the land we call the United States of America as enslaved Africans before August 20th, 1619, because the Spanish were bringing Africans into this land almost 100 years before that. We deal with did Africans sell themselves into slavery and untangle that, because it's complicated to understand, and it's not the way that people like Dr. Henry Louis Gates present it. He takes exceptions to the rule and tries to extrapolate that and make that the rule. And that's not true, because you had Africans fighting wars against the Europeans, also fighting against the slave trade. We deal with when did African people, we deal with when African people in America, were African people in America before the slave trade? Absolutely. This was our land stolen away from us. And there's more and more evidence coming out supporting that. So these are just some of the things we deal with in the online course. OK. The full 10-hour online course, which meets tonight, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. And if you miss any of it, if you have to work, it's all recorded. You can go back and watch it over and over again. Now, this is Runoko Rashidi. Runoko is one of our Grandmaster Scholar Warriors. He's an author, historian, world traveler. He's been to 110 islands and countries around the world. OK. And I've interviewed him 6 times. He has a he has a saying that I've modified and made my own. And if you listen to my lectures, you see any of my presentations, you hear me say this. This is why studying African history and culture is so important. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you have been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Okay. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you have been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Okay. So this, and it's your history and culture that gives you your foundation. It gives you your VIPs, your values, your interests, and your principles. Your values, your interests, and your principles. Okay. And this shapes the way you see the world. This gives you your cultural paradigm that you see the world through. For the most part, African Americans, our history and culture has been taken away from us, and we've been taught to see reality through the eyes of Europeans for the most part. Okay. And that does not work for us. Now, this is Marcus Garvey. He's one of our greatest leaders of the 20th century, led the largest mass movement of African people in this country. He founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association in 1914 in Jamaica, and he comes here to the U.S. in 1916. He said that if the Negro is not careful, he would drink in all the poison of modern civilization and die from the effects of it. If the Negro is not careful, he would drink in all the poison of modern civilization and die from the effects of it. And hip hop artists who put out negative hip hop, okay, the killer Negro music and music of excess and promiscuity, drug dealing, all types of nonsense like this. Nicki Minaj, Rick Ross, Lil Wayne, hip hop artists like this, okay, and others. They are, our children are drinking in the poison of European civilization, of European society that's being fed to them through negative hip hop. Now, a lot of these people are nice people when you get to know them, but I'm talking about the persona that the record company creates and the messaging that's going out. Okay. This is very destructive to our children. Dr. Wade Noble is one of our great African-centered psychologists. He said the power is the ability to define and shape reality and to have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. Power is the ability to define and shape reality and to have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. Power coming from the Latin word potere, meaning to be able. All right. And somebody asked me to post a link. Daniel Johnson. Okay. All right. So we just posted a link, Daniel. You can register for this full 10-hour online course that I teach, because class is meeting tonight at 7 p.m. in about an hour. Online class. There's only $40 for the entire online course. And all the sessions are recorded. We do them live, but they're all recorded. So if you miss any of it, you can go back and watch it. So class is meeting tonight. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Let's go back to this. And this is Dr. Francis Cress Wilson and Neely Fuller. What I'm doing is just laying a foundation so we can get into some other more complicated topics. Okay. And this is just an overview of our 10-hour course. So Dr. Francis Cress Wilson and Neely Fuller, they taught us about understanding white supremacy and racism and understanding it as a global system. Understanding white supremacy and racism as a global system. Okay. And this is something that they taught us. And they taught us that if you do not understand European white supremacy and racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you think that you understand will totally confuse you. Everything else that you think that you understand will totally confuse you. And we have to understand it. They have to understand racism, which is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, coming out of the ideology of white supremacy. Okay. And in the course, what I deal with the origins of racism and how it evolves over a 300-year period of time. And we deal with understanding racism as a power structure, understanding it from a historical perspective, because the dictionary version of it, and when you have the debates and commentary on CNN and things like this, they usually they never define from a historical perspective what racism is. Usually they never define from a historical perspective what racism is. Okay. So most people don't understand, and you can't fight what you can't fight what you don't understand. You know, Muhammad Ali, you see the pictures of Ali behind me. Muhammad Ali is one of my heroes. And, you know, Muhammad Ali talked about how, you know, he said, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Your hands can't hit what your eyes can't see. OK, well, how can you fight what you don't understand? How can you fight what you don't see? Most of us have no clue what racism is. We think racism is not liking people, calling people racial epithets. No, that's bigotry. Most of our people, most of our leaders, a lot of our leaders don't understand white supremacy and racism from a historical perspective. OK, so this is when you can't fight what you don't understand. All right. And this is Dr. Wilson, made a transition January 2nd, 2016. This is the book she wrote, The ISIS Papers, The Keys to the Colors. Now, Malcolm taught us a number of things, but one of the things Malcolm taught us about was the power of the media, the power of the media. OK, and Malcolm said that the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the ability to make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. And that's power because they control the minds of the masses. OK, he said the media is the and see, a lot of our people think TV shows don't impact the way we think, feel, act, and behave. Movies that depict us negatively, negative stereotypical images of us. They don't understand these are exported around the world. This is done on purpose, coming out of white supremacy and racism. OK, to dehumanize us, to then justify the derogatory labels put on us, to then justify the maltreatment, the over policing, implicit bias. African Americans being shot down on the street, over incarceration, to justify actions that are inflicted upon us, that are not inflicted for the most part upon other people. You have to negatively depict the people and put negative labels on them to remove the cognitive dissonance, to remove the discomfort people may have for mistreating a group of people. So you have to understand history to understand this. But Malcolm told us that the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power because they control the minds of the masses. OK, so this is why understanding the power of the media is so important. And this is why it's so significant that Bill O'Reilly was taken off of the air last Friday by Fox News, because about 80 advertisers have pulled advertising dollars from Fox News so that that show was no longer profitable. But what a lot of people don't know is that there was an African-American organization that was at the forefront of getting Bill O'Reilly off the air. And that organization's name, that's colorofchange.org. Colorofchange.org. OK, colorofchange.org. And check out this article from the Huffington Post Black Voices. Check out the article from HuffingtonPost.com, Huffington Post Black Voices. This black org helped oust Bill O'Reilly. OK, name of this article. This came out April 20th, 2017. April 20th, 2017. This black org, O-R-G, helped oust Bill O'Reilly by hitting Fox where it hurts. This black org helped oust Bill O'Reilly by hitting Fox where it hurts. OK, and this is about Color of Change, and Rashad Robinson's executive director, Color of Change. You see him sometimes on News One Now with Roland Martin. This deals with their involvement, and they had a campaign against the Bill O'Reilly show for 2 years. OK, for 2 years. But they were at the forefront of contacting advertisers of the O'Reilly Factor, putting pressure on them to withdraw economic support from that show. OK, they were also involved in getting the Glenn Beck show off of Fox News and getting the TV show Cops off the air also as well, which was also on the Fox TV network as well. OK, all right, let's continue here. How's everybody doing on Facebook? OK, Maxwell, no problem. He said, thank you, sir. Crystal B, how you doing? Daniel Johnson. All right. How's everybody doing today? All right. So in this clip here, we don't have time to get into it, but I showed it in in the class. But Malcolm asked a series of questions, and we deal with some of these questions of who are you? He says, don't, he asked the audience, he said, who are you? He said, don't tell me Negro. We said, what were you before the white man named you a Negro? And where were you? And what did you have? What language did you speak? He said, what was your name? It could have been Smith or Jones or Bunch or Powell. He said, that wasn't your name. He said, we didn't have those type of names where you and I came from. He said, what was your name? And why don't you now know what your name was then? Where did it go? Who took it? How did he take it? What method did he use to take it? Where's your history? He said, how did the man wipe out your history? What method did the man use to wipe out your history? He said, what method did he use to make you as dumb as you are right now? So we deal with a chronology of history to understand what happened to African people to put us in this predicament that we're in right now, and things that we could do to get out of it as well. But you have to understand history to do this. You can never get out of solve a problem and get out of a predicament until you understand the history of how you got into that predicament in the first place. Okay. All right. Now, this is Dr. David Imhotep. Dr. David Imhotep is a friend of mine. I'm going to interview him very soon because of the archaeological discoveries that were the three that came out this month. But he wrote a groundbreaking book. And this is one that we deal with this book in the course. Now, we reference a number of books in the course, right? But it's not necessary for you to go out and purchase these books to understand what we're talking about in the course. You can buy them if you want to and read them, but it's not a requirement for you to buy the books to understand what we're talking about, be able to follow us along. Okay, but they're good to have for your library, good for you to read. Okay, so Dr. David Imhotep wrote a groundbreaking book in 2011 called The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. And he holds the world's first ever PhD in ancient African history also. But his book deals with you go to his website, historictruth.info, historictruth.info. Okay. His book deals with an African presence found in 2004 by Dr. Albert Goodyear in Allendale County, South Carolina, that shows evidence of an African presence in this country we call the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years ago. At least 51,700 years ago. Okay. And on page 14 of his book, he talks about what was found in 2004 in Allendale County, South Carolina, by archaeologist Dr. Albert Goodyear from the University of South Carolina. They found 13 different disciplines used to document an African presence in this country going back at least 51,700 years ago. This is what they found. They found artifacts, architecture, campsites, carvings, Egyptian writings, footprints in lava, genetic M174D haploid groups dealing with DNA and genetics, linguistics, paintings, skulls, skeletons, structures, and tools. 13 different disciplines thoroughly documenting an African presence in this country we call the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years ago. Okay, this is before the transatlantic slave trade starts. This is before Europeans come into existence. This is before Europeans have their first civilization, which is said to be Greece, which doesn't come into existence till 11th century BC. This is before Native Americans come into existence. The original people of the land we call the United States of America were Black African people. And we were in South America going back at least 56,000 years ago. But there's evidence that's come out a couple of years ago that pushes that date back 100,000 years ago. Okay, just a second. Let me get this article here. Okay, so I was talking to Dr. David Imhotep a couple of years ago, and there's an article from the New York Times from March 27th, 2014, called "Discoveries Challenge Beliefs on Humans' Arrival in the Americas." Discoveries challenge beliefs on humans' arrival in the Americas, March 27th, 2014. And when you read this article from the New York Times, this is not InfoWars. This is the New York Times. When you read this article, they talk about evidence that pushes the date back in South America, not 56,000 years ago of an African presence, but 100,000 years ago of an African presence. So the deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets, the more research they do, the older we get. The deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets, the more research they do, the older we get. Okay. Now, in November 18th, 2004, everybody all right? How's everybody doing on Facebook? Okay. If you're just tuning in, Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. And we should still be broadcasting on Facebook. It looks like it's freezing up a little bit or something. How's everybody doing on Facebook? All right. And this is an overview. This is about an hour and a half overview of a 10-hour, 5-week online course that I teach called Ancient Kemet, the Moors and the Maafa. Ancient Kemet, the Moors and the Maafa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay. And shout out to, we got Russell, Renee, and Kim Nicole said, thanks for telling the truth. All right. I appreciate it, sister. Because this ain't easy. People don't understand. People don't understand what I go through, and then how you get attacked for telling the truth also. People don't understand. You know, DJ Jackson Jeff and the Fresh Prince had a song, Parents just don't understand. People do not understand. Also, the attacks you get from Negroes as well, but you know, it's all good. They can't, you know, idiots can't refute my research. They can't refute my research. Okay. All right. So this is for those just tuning in, this is, you know, I'm the founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show, host of the Michael Imhotep show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer. This is a, overview of a 10-hour online course that I teach that meets on Thursday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is meeting tonight. We just posted a link here on the thread of the broadcast. You can register for the full online course. The online course, full course is only $40. The whole thing is recorded. We do it live and record it. So it's archived. You can go back and watch it over and over again. If you missed any of it, not a problem. Okay. So you can register for the course, and tonight's class is going to blow you away because we're going to get into some deep stuff in tonight's course. Okay. And we deal with a chronology of history. We deal with tens of thousands of years of history leading up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place so we can better understand it. Historical events don't happen in a vacuum. They are a culmination of a sequence of historical events that take place. All right. So November 8th, 2004. ScienceDaily.com, which is a scientific journal website, they had an article called New Evidence Puts Man in North America 50,000 years ago. New evidence puts man in North America 50,000 years ago. Okay. Now, this is not Infowars.com. This is based upon facts and evidence. This article came out 13 years ago. 13 years ago. Okay. And here's a synopsis of what the article said. Radiocarbon tests of carbonized plant remains where artifacts were unearthed last May along the Savannah River in Allendale County by University of South Carolina archaeologist Dr. Albert Goodyear indicate that the sediments containing these artifacts are at least 50,000 years old, meaning that humans inhabited North America long before the last ice age. Only people on the face of the earth at this time are African people. Okay. Europeans had no civilization. This is before Europeans come into existence. These were Black African people here in what we call the United States, going back at least 51,700 years ago. Okay. Now, this is Dr. Albert Goodyear, right? Okay. Now, let's go quickly to this other discovery. Okay. Now, this was from, and what we do in the course, once again, in the first session and a half, we lay a good historical foundation, okay? Because I know people are coming to the course and coming to this information with different levels of understanding. So we deal with some of the archaeological findings that have taken place in the past few years that are causing scientists, archaeologists, and historians to have to rethink everything, because the deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets. The more research they do, the older we get. Okay, so we deal with all this. We deal with all this in the course. All right. Shout out to Cynthia in Texas. Kim Nicole said, yes, I can believe it. Keep it going. Daniel Johnson, some people still believe in Santa and the Easter Bunny. Yeah, you're right. And the Tooth Fairy. And some people still believe Donald Trump's going to build this wall that he said Mexico is going to pay for. Now he wants these stupid ass white people who voted for him. He wants them to pay for the wall. Yeah. And he said, oh, Mexico's going to pay at a later date. It's going to cost at least $21 billion and take 3.5 years to build this wall that he kept lying to these idiots saying Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Now they're about to pay for it. And some of them are finding out that if this wall gets built, one, some of their homes could be taken by eminent domain. Donald Trump didn't tell them that when he was lying to them on the campaign trail. One. Number two, some of them are finding out if this wall gets built, some of their homes are going to be on the other side of the wall and their asses are going to be in Mexico. And some of them scared to death because Donald Trump did not tell them that. This is what happens when you deal with a con man. You get con. All right. Okay, so this article is from the New York Times, February 2010. Name of this article is called On Crete, New Evidence of Very Ancient Mariners. On Crete, New Evidence of Very Ancient Mariners. Okay. Now, Crete is an island in the Mediterranean. Okay. Crete is an island in the Mediterranean. All right. And in the article, this is from February 5th, 2015. This was this is from 7 years ago. This was a groundbreaking discovery. And this is why I say at least 130,000 years of our history has been stolen. Okay. This is what they found. They did excavations and archaeological digs over the course of 2 summers on the Greek island of Crete. And they found stone tools that date back at least 130,000 years ago. They found stone tools that date back at least 130,000 years ago. And they said this is considered strong evidence, okay, for the earliest known seafaring in the Mediterranean and calls for rethinking the maritime capabilities of pre-human cultures. All right. Now, first of all, these people are not pre-human. These were Homo sapiens sapiens. I'm telling you, because many of our scholars like Dr. Charles Finch, Runoko Rashidi, who I showed you earlier, and others of our scholars, they have been saying for years that Homo sapiens sapiens, which is our classification, they've been saying for years that Homo sapiens sapiens are not 75,000 years old. They're not 100,000 years old. They're not 200,000 years old. They've been saying the Homo sapiens sapiens are at least 300,000 years old. We know there's archaeological evidence to show that at least 130,000 years of our history has been stolen. This is one of those archaeological digs. This is some of the evidence. They found stone tools that date back over the course of 2 summers that date back 130,000 years ago. And they said that this is causing them to have to rethink everything. Now, Crete has been an island in the Mediterranean more than 5 million years, meaning that the tool makers must have arrived by boat. So this seems to push the history of Mediterranean voyaging back more than 100,000 years ago. Okay, specialists in Stone Age archaeology say. Now, previous artifact discoveries has shown people reaching Cyprus and a few other Greek islands and possibly Sardinia no earlier than 10 to 12,000 years ago. So they thought seafaring, sailing by boat in the Mediterranean dated back 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. But this discovery here is causing them to have to push those dates back. Okay. You know, they have to back the dates up. You know, Juvenile had that song, back that thing up, back that ass up. They got to back that thing up because these archaeological discoveries keep coming out showing that, wait, no, we're much older than what they were saying that we were. And these are African people. These are African people because these are the only people on the face of the earth. These are Black African people. Okay. So they keep having to push dates back. The deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets, the more research they do, the older we get, right? But it goes deeper than that, okay? Because there was a discovery that just came out yesterday. There was a discovery that was just revealed yesterday. Okay. What was this discovery? We're going to talk about that in tonight's class. Okay. Class starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, those watching on Facebook, how many want to register for the class that starts tonight? And it runs on Thursdays, April 27th through May 11th. It's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The entire course is only $40. The whole thing is recorded. You can go back and watch it over and over again as well. And as soon as you register, you'll be able to watch the first 4 hours that we've already recorded. Okay. Who wants to register for the course? If you need me to post the link again to register for the full course, and there's about there's free content you can watch as soon as you register. So there's about, I think, about 10 hours of content, 8 to 10 hours of content you'll be able to watch also. Okay. All right. Now I want to bring this other thing up here on the screen here. So just 1 second here. Okay. How's everybody doing on Facebook? Let me here. This is what I want to show you. Okay. This was a discovery made. This was a discovery that was revealed yesterday. This was the discovery revealed yesterday. Okay. Anthony Smith, how you doing, Anthony? Okay, look for you in class tonight. All the major news outlets had a story about this. National Geographic's website, New York Times. Okay. Who is this? National Geographic, NBCnews.com, New York Times, CNN. All of them had a story about this. Mastodon bone findings could upend our understanding of human history. Mastodon bone findings could upend our understanding of human history. Okay. So what this discovery deals with, and I'm going to put it on the large screen for you. This article is from NBCnews.com. Okay. And we're going to talk about this discovery. This is one of the discoveries that happened this month, that came out this month, that we're going to talk about in tonight's course. Right. So what this deals with is evidence of human life in this country we call the United States, found 130,000 years ago. This is groundbreaking. This goes back beyond the discovery that Dr. Albert Goodyear made in 2004. This is how many of y'all heard about this? This just came out yesterday. National Geographic had an article about this. The Discovery Channel's website had an article about this. This is from NBCnews.com. Okay. This is from yesterday. National Geographic, they had their article came out. Let's see. National Geographic had one yesterday, but there's one that just came out an hour ago. Let me see something here. National Geographic had theirs a day ago. There's some that just came out like in the last hour or something, 19 hours ago. All these publications had stories about this. New York Times, humans lived in North America 130,000 years ago. Okay, Wired.com, markings of 130,000-year-old mastodon bone reveals ancient, not sure what that was. Washington Post, archaeology shocker, study claims humans, we'll pull this up here, study claims humans reached America 130,000 years ago. This just came out yesterday. This just came out yesterday. The deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets, the more research they do, the older we get. Okay. So in this article from NBCnews.com, it says paleontologists, okay, have dug up a 130,000, and paleontologists are those that study, dinosaur bones, things like this, right? Paleontologists have dug up a 130,000-year-old mastodon skeleton that looks like it was smashed apart by humans, but they found it in America, where people were not supposed to have arrived for another 100,000 years. Okay. How could that have happened? The researchers say they think early humans must have come to America much earlier than anyone ever thought. You think? they suggest that other scientists start looking for evidence of people and places they never bothered looking before. The deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets, the more research they do, the older we get. They keep having to push back dates. They keep having to push back dates. Okay. All right. Now, in the article, now check out this article also. DNA links ancient Americans to their living descendants. Okay. DNA links ancient Americans to their living descendants. All right. So in the article, they talk about Dr. Albert Goodyear. Now, this discovery was made in San Diego. This is in California. Okay. This discovery here showing evidence of an African presence, because that's all it was on the face of the earth. African presence going back 130,000 years ago. They don't want to say these were African people because, oh, they just destroyed white supremacy. They don't want to say these are African people. But if you understand history, this is who they're talking about. Okay. Now, in the article, they also talk about Dr. Albert Goodyear. Okay. And I want to find it here. Speed this up. Okay. So in the article, it says, and the archaeology mainstreams and the archaeology mainstream is very unforgiving of, let me back it up a little. Okay. There are other sites in the Americas that have been dated before 13,000 years ago, but there is debate about the conclusions. DNA evidence suggests that humans were in the Americas long before even 15,000 years ago, but there's no physical evidence to support the idea. Now, look at the discovery from Dr. Albert Goodyear. Okay. Now, it goes on to say, and the archaeology mainstream is very unforgiving of researchers who challenge the accepted dates, said Dr. Albert Goodyear of the University of South Carolina, who's been working to prove for years that stone tools found in a South Carolina site date to as long as 50,000 years ago. This is Dr. Albert Goodyear that we just talked about, okay, who Dr. David Imhotep, he cites his work and others in the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. All right. Dr. Albert Goodyear said there is a lot of ignorance and arrogance about how little we know about the Western Hemisphere. Okay. And he was not involved in the San Diego study, discovery, but he said these things are very controversial. Okay. He said, I think they've done their homework, talking about this discovery in San Diego. Okay. He said, I think they have done their homework. All right. And he said, I think these sites are a wake up call to the profession. All right. So what happens is that the profession of archaeology, is dominated by white supremacy and racism. The profession of archaeology is dominated by white supremacy and racism. So when you come out with solid archaeological evidence showing that African people were in this country long before Native Americans came into existence, long before Europeans came into existence, then it causes a cultural paradigm shift for African people to realize that this was our land stolen away from us. Our history didn't start in this country in slavery and chains and shackles. No, you have some Europeans who know the truth. They know this was our land stolen from us. Okay. And these archaeological findings, this is why he said, in archaeology, a lot of archaeologists don't want analysis. These are white archaeologists, basically, who most of them don't want analysis, because archaeology and anthropology are very much dominated by white supremacy and racism. And a lot of them don't want to tell the truth. Now, Dr. Albert Goodyear is a white archaeologist who's telling the truth and trying to get this truth out. Okay. But you have a lot of them trying to suppress this information. This is why I'm so glad NBCnews.com did their research and interviewed him and referenced him, because of the discovery he made back in 2004. He and in the archaeological group, he wasn't by himself. They made back in 2004. This is so important. This is why in the online course that I teach is different than other people's approaches to the transatlantic slave trade. We deal with a chronology of history over tens of thousands of years, archaeological digs, archaeological evidence, things like this. Okay. They show a chronology of history leading up to the transatlantic slave trade happening. This is why this is so important to understand this. Okay. All right. How's everybody doing on Facebook? Charles Crane said, just like we're living in so-called 2017, this planet has been here longer. Planet is 4.6 billion years old. This planet is 4.6 billion years old. Okay. Renee just registered. Okay. So you all, now those watching, how many have registered for the course tonight? Starts up 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to register for the course. It's going to blow you away. This is just an overview of the type of information we deal with in the course. It's just an overview of the type of information we deal with in the course. Okay. We're going to be here for a few more minutes because I'm going to have to get ready for tonight's class. All right. We'll be here for a few more minutes. So let's continue. If you have any questions, post them here on Facebook. Okay. All right. We deal with a historical example of the suppression of the knowledge and the fight, because we deal with religion in the course, in the history of religion. You can believe what you want to believe. I'm not attacking people's religious belief. I deal with history. I'm a researcher. I deal with facts and evidence. I'm not dealing with beliefs. Okay. So we deal with a historical example of the suppression of the knowledge coming out of ancient Africa, coming out of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. And we deal with the example of the Eastern Orthodox Church in 432 AD fighting against the Druids, okay, fighting against the Druids in Ireland. And the Druids are dealing with something called the Gnosis, which was called the true knowledge. And they're dealing with a watered down version of teachings coming out of ancient Kemet, coming out of ancient Egyptian mystery system. Okay. And what they're dealing with is in direct conflict to what the Christian church is trying to teach. So the church declares war on the Druids. So we deal with this. Okay. The term down at the bottom that you see, fricatriskaidekaphobia. Fricatriskaidekaphobia is the fear of Friday the 13th. The fear of Friday the 13th. The word frigga, and you'll see variations of it in different European languages. Frigga, Freya, Freya. She was the wife of Odin, who was the god of who was the one of the head deities in Scandinavian mythology, father of Thor, father of Loki, Odin. Okay, the day of the week, Friday is named after Freya, Frigga, who was the wife of Odin. And fricatriskaidekaphobia is the fear of Friday the 13th, which partly comes from the Knights Templar, who got teachings coming from the Moors, who go into Europe in 711 AD, and the Knights Templar, who started out as the Poor Knights of Christ, then become known as the Knights Templar. They're formed during the Second Crusades in 1118 AD. They're going to get teachings from the Moors, become very, very powerful. Okay. And then these teachings, when they're destroyed about 1310, 1314 AD on a Friday, October 13th, on a Friday, these teachings go underground, resurface as the Scottish Rites of the Freemasons, Yorkshire Rites of the Rosicrucians, the Scottish Rites of the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and other European secret societies, etc. And these teachings are going to come to the U.S. These teachings are going to come to the U.S. as well. Okay. In Jamestown, Virginia, we know that 50 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons, and Freemasonry is based upon watered down teachings coming out of ancient Kemet. This is another discovery we talk about, the lost city of Egypt called Tanis Heraklion. Okay. And this article from news.yahoo.com, sunken Egyptian city reveals 1,200-year-old secrets. Okay. And what they found, this came out 4 years ago. What they found at the bottom of Egypt's Bay of Abu Qir, they found 64 ships, 16-foot tall statues, 700 anchors, countless gold coins, and smaller artifacts. And Frank Gaudillo, who is the archaeologist who led this expedition, he said they believe that Tanis Heraklion was built around 8th century BC. Now, this was a city that sunk into the ocean. Okay, this was a lost city of Egypt that was lost around 1,200 years ago. This is some of what they found at the bottom of the ocean. This is some of what they found at the bottom of the ocean. Okay. All right. Sunken Egyptian city reveals 1,200-year-old secrets. This is some of what they found at the bottom of those oceans. So we deal with this in the course, and I'll show you some videos of what they found also. This was a huge discovery. This came out in 2013. They found 16-foot tall statues of ancient Egyptians at the bottom of this ocean. They're underground. They found this is a 16-foot tall statue of Set, who the Greeks call Isis, who was in the first holy trinity of Osar, Set, and Heru. Okay. And she gives birth to Heru on December 25th in the mythology. He was born of a virgin birth. Okay. This is the bottom, the two legs of a statue, probably about a 16-foot tall statue coming out of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. All right. They found all this stuff. This is probably the headdress, the horns, and the sun disk of Het Heru, or of Set, Isis. Okay. We see the horns and the sun disk. All right. This is just a sample of what they found. This is just a sample of what they found in this groundbreaking discovery. All right. Now, Dr. Leonard Jeffries is one of my teachers, and Dr. J and Professor James Small, when they teach, they talk about the pyramid principle. Here's a pyramid of Giza. Here's a pyramid of Khafre at Giza. And when we deal with the pyramid principle, a pyramid has three sides. OK, the foundation of the pyramid is African history and culture. The foundation is African history and culture. And this gives us our VIPs, our values, our interests, and our principles. Our values, our interests, and our principles. OK, and this gives us our cultural paradigm that we see the world through. And it's your foundation is your history and culture that influences your economics, influences your economic empowerment. OK, for the most part, every group in the U.S., for the most part, they have their history and culture intact, and they use it to fight for scarce wealth, power, and resources. OK, they use it to fight for scarce wealth, power, and resources. Every ethnic group in America, for the most part, they're the largest employers of their own people because they have their history and culture intact. Their history and culture gives them their VIPs, their values, interests, and their principles. And their history and culture teaches them that the only way they're going to survive is through self-reliance. The only way that they're going to survive is through self-reliance. OK, and your economic empowerment influences your political empowerment. So it does not matter how much money you have. If this foundation is not in place, you won't know what to do with the money. If this foundation is not in place, you won't know what to do with the money. So we have a $1.3 trillion economy. OK, African Americans have a $1.3 trillion economy. And 97% of our dollars are spent with people that don't look like us because that foundation is not there. So we have to reclaim African history and culture, which gives us our foundation, which gives us our VIPs, our values, interests, and principles, which influences our economics and our politics. And if you don't control your economics and don't have economic empowerment, you won't be able to control your politics. OK, and we have to understand politics. Two main ways to understand politics. OK, number one, the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. The legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. Number one. Number two, the writing of law, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties. The writing of law, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. OK, so these are two main ways to understand politics. All right. We're going to wrap up here in just a minute. So this is, for those just tuning in, this is a overview. It's about an hour and a half overview of a 10-hour, 5-week online course that I teach called Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. OK, and we deal with thousands of years of history, and we deal with history leading up to the transatlantic slave trade, so we could put it in a historical context and deal with history chronologically as opposed to episodically. The transatlantic slave trade was not an episode in history. It was a sequence of other historical events that took place that had a domino effect that led up to it taking place. We talk about the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors. We deal with how this sets up Christopher Columbus to set sail on his 4 voyages, how Columbus and his 4 voyages, the lands that he goes into and uncovers: Jamaica, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Panama, Honduras, etc. How this lays the foundation for slavery, racism, capitalism, the exploitation of indigenous people, opens up these so-called new worlds for other European powers to come in and fight over these lands and exploit the indigenous people, decimate their populations, extract wealth out of natural resources out of these lands, and send these things like gold and silver, etc., send these back to Europe to rebuild their respective European nations that were coming out of the Dark Ages after having their populations decimated because of the Black Death, the bubonic plague that hits in 1347 and hits in spurts from 1347 to 1400. And Europe loses between 1/4 to 1/3 of their population. They lose between 25 million and 75 million of their population over this period of time. So Europe is devastated and they're trying to rebuild. Okay. So we deal with this chronology of history. We deal with Ghana, Songhai, and Mali, great West African civilizations. We deal with ancient Kemet and Nubia and Ethiopia, etc. We deal with thousands of years of history. We deal with archaeological discoveries, etc. Okay. So we just posted the link there. It says register here. You can register for this full 10-hour course. It meets on Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live. You can tune in by smartphone and watch us. You can do it on your computer. All of it is recorded. So if you miss any of it, you can go back and watch it over and over again. As soon as you register, we have about 8 or 10 hours of content you can watch. You can watch the first 4 hours of the course, and you can ask questions during the class also through the live chat. So how's everybody watching here? Okay, who's registered for the course is online. If you want to register, let me know that you want to register as well. We posted a link there so you can register, and you'll be able to join us for class tonight. We deal with the Africans known as the Moors, as I said, and understand how we got in this predicament and understand the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, what they take into Europe, the teachings they take into Europe. When they go in 711 AD, 85 to 90% of Europeans are illiterate. They can neither read nor write. Majority of Europeans totally illiterate at that time. Kings and queens who can neither read nor write. And they were, George G.M. James said that the Moors were the custodians of the ancient Egyptian mystery system. They're taking teachings into Europe that brings Europe out of the Dark Ages, form the foundation of the secret societies, the Freemasons. We deal with the Freemasonry, some not conspiracy theory stuff, but understanding Freemasonry, because the foundation of that are teachings coming out of ancient Kemet. And these teachings that the Moors are going to take into Europe are going to come to the U.S., Jamestown, Virginia, 1607, and the subsequent colonies, because 50 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. 50 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. And you're going to have elements of Freemasonry, elements of ancient Kemet. You're going to have this when you deal with the layout of Washington, D.C. The layout of Washington, D.C. is based upon ancient African principles coming out of ancient Egypt. So when we look at the Washington Monument, the Washington Monument is an ancient African symbol called a tekken or an obelisk, which comes from the story of Osar, Aset, and Heru, the first Holy Trinity. And you had 1,200 Tekkenu for plural, all throughout ancient Kemet. Today, there are about 12. A lot of them are taken to other countries around the world, Paris, France, the Vatican, Istanbul, Turkey, things like this. Okay. But this comes from this is a symbol of resurrection coming from the story of Osar, Aset, and Heru, who the Greeks called Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Okay. This is a famous picture of them, a famous statue of them coming straight out of ancient Kemet. And the story of Osar, Aset, and Heru, and the Immaculate Conception, Virgin Birth, all this stuff, this goes back to at least 3300 BC in ancient Kemet. I mean, it's ancient Nubia. Goes back to at least 3300 BC in ancient Nubia. Okay. And then from this story here of the virgin birth and Aset giving birth to Heru, December 25th, Heru having 12 disciples, etc. From this story, we get the Black Madonna and Child. And then from the Black Madonna and Child, we get the decolorized version of the white Virgin Mary and Jesus, the white Virgin Mary and Jesus. Okay. But these are stories that have been told over thousands of years, adapted to various people's cultures throughout the world and their ethnicities put on them. But this comes out of ancient Kemet and then goes back to ancient Nubia, which is the mother of ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet. Nubia is the mother because civilization is going up the Nile River. Okay, so we have to understand it. So we deal with a chronology of history here. Okay. All right. And then we deal with why Christmas was celebrated on December 25th. We deal with history. We deal with the origins of the word America, because the word America has a Black African origin, and the word American originally referred to the Aboriginal and copper-colored races that were found in the Americas by Europeans. So if the Europeans used the word American to refer to the people who were in the lands in the Americas when they got there, it was referring to non-European people. So historically, American did not refer to Europeans. It referred to indigenous African people and Native Americans. That's who the Americans really were. So when I hear people say, I'm not an American, I say, you don't understand your history. It goes back to what Malcolm said. Who are you? Where did you come from? Where's your history? We don't know that this was our land stolen from us. We were in North, Central, and South America going back tens of thousands of years ago. Okay. All right. So look, guys, I got to get ready for class tonight. I got to get ready for class starting in a few minutes here. Okay. Hopefully you learned something from this. How'd you all like this overview? And the graphics are larger. I was able to figure out how to do that. Graphics are larger. Hopefully you like this. Did you all learn anything from this? Charles said, and we Africans are the only ones who don't worship a deity that looks like us. Yes, you're correct. Okay. Did y'all learn anything from this? Okay. So, this was a overview of a 10-hour, 5-day course that I teach on Thursday evenings, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade. We just posted a link here again on our thread on Facebook. You can register for it right now. We're about to start class up. You can register for it now. All the sessions are recorded. We do it live. You can ask questions during the course, during class, with the live chat. If you miss any of it, you can go back and watch it over and over and over again. We get deeper into this information. I'm just skimming the surface with this overview. We get deep into the information. As soon as you register, you'll be able to watch the first 4 hours of class has already been recorded. We have other free content for you to watch as well. This class runs each Thursday through May 11th. Information we're going to cover is going to blow you away. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The full course is only $40. So the cup, so 8 cups of what? Starbucks coffee is the cost of this course, and you're gonna get more out of this course than you will out of the Starbucks coffee. Okay. This course would totally change the way you look at history, totally change your life. Okay, I'm Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show and the Michael Imhotep show. I have to get ready for class. Register for this course. We'll see you in class here. We'll see you in class. And remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.